Bismillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum. So welcome again to this Islam and Science reading group, which is dedicated to philosophy, both philosophy of science and of religion in Islam. And for this session, the idea is to follow up on what we had before Ramadan, on the philosophy of religion in Islam, ontology. So we are going through part one, religion and reason, and I think we stopped about halfway with the text from Ghazali. Before I start talking about philosophy, it would be nice to introduce each other briefly so that we know what the audience is, inshallah. So Aliyah, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I am Aliyah Pandolfi, and I met Adrian a couple of years ago when I found his book. So I haven't been able to join for the last year, but I know, Muhammad, I've seen you before. Faiza, I feel like maybe I was in one of the discussions that you had as well. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about myself, but I'm glad to be back. And thank you so much for having me.
If I may add, Aliyah, you might be one of the reasons why Burhan exists in the first place.
I don't know. Burhan already existed in your mind. I might have just pulled it out of your mind, but it already existed. I did my job that I was, I guess, instructed to do.
Mohammed, you're next on my screen.
My name is Mohammed Assar. I'm a teacher at the University of Sheffield in biological sciences. Nice to see you, Ali, again. It's been a while.
You too. Yes, it has. So much has changed, but it's been a while.
Alhamdulillah. Faiza, please go ahead.
Hello, guys. My name's Faiza. I'm a postdoc in lung MRI, so I do MRI of the lungs. Basically, I'm an imaging physicist. And yeah, I moved to Sheffield recently. I have a big interest in philosophy in general, and I never had an opportunity to I've always been digging into that on my own. So this group seemed to pop up at the correct time. I was like, oh, other people are engaging with this too. So here I am.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Hopefully it will be useful.
Inshallah.
And Laraib, you're next to my screen. Please, if you can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Laraib. I just recently completed my PhD. I'm currently working at University of Sheffield. Yeah, that's it.
Yay, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Who did you do your PhD with?
Dr. Adrian Shoy. I didn't say because of the conflict of interest.
No, I'm kidding. There's a clear conflict of interest. But it's all right, you graduated. It's all right. No, you can. No, alhamdulillah, jazakallah khairan. So have you read the text or not? That's the big question.
I haven't. I was trying to skip it. I've been traveling recently. That's why I couldn't. It would be nice to have a quick if anyone is going through it.
I did not read it at all.
The honesty
I tried to look at the subheadings and to decide which part to read. But and I know that you started this last week. Last meeting. But I didn't know where you stopped.
Yes, I should have been more precise. So we started with, the goal is to go through that ontology for science and religion in Islam. And the great thing, it's an ontology, so it's a selection of small chapters within books of authoritative sources. So you have Farabi, Juwaynī, Ghazali, and others. And the editors chose and compiled the text thematically, which is why it's quite convenient. So it's really short text, few pages each, and they are ordered in a thematic way. I'm trying to convince you to read the text next time. And so each time the editors will give a short introduction of what's coming up, what's their understanding of the text, what's even the context, like the life of these authors, and who are they responding to. And so
think we lost Adrian.
Froze, yeah?
Yeah, I think his
Yeah.
computer is restarting or something like this, because if he's speaking from uni, the internet in uni is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys aren't even in Iran where you have a blockade.
Maybe
Are
not.
you?
No, I'm not. But no, I'm in the US.
Oh,
So you're
okay.
neighbors because Faiza is a Canadian.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, we
Yeah,
are
we
neighbors.
moved from Canada, yeah, in
Oh, so
January.
you're in
Not
UK now,
necessarily
right?
good neighbors.
I'm in Sheffield now, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, actually, Mohammed, last time we spoke, I was in right outside of DC, and now I'm actually in Middle America in Arkansas. It's crazy.
Smack
Yeah,
them,
who
no
would've-
ocean
Yeah.
coasts near you.
Yeah, and who would have thought I would have met like this amazing like Muslim community here? I mean, even the imam has a PhD in theology. He's
Wow.
originally from Jordan, yeah, and he wants to translate Adrian's book in Arabic. That was one thing he also asked if he could do that, and he would take that on as like a project. But I wasn't sure if Adrian's book's already has been translated in Arabic or not.
That's a good point. I didn't see one actually.
Yeah, I know he has it in French, but I wasn't sure. Is he fluent in Arabic? I forgot if he's fluent
No.
or Arabic.
No. Adrian is not. No.
Okay.
Arabic's hard. I took one intro to Arabic course and it destroyed me.
Well, I think it's I wonder if it's different like when you're studying the Quran, because it's not just spoken Arabic, right? It's understanding, and then you have to get into linguistics of understanding the origin of words and where and how it was used. So I think it is definitely more difficult when you learn for that purpose versus I think if you're just traveling to Egypt or something and you're like, yeah, I need to learn some Arabic, you could get away with that.
You're absolutely right. I think speaking is easier than reading.
It's returned.
There you are, Adrian, and you're
You are
unmuted.
muted.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
You can hear me. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for not leaving. My computer died, and it resuscitated. It's all right. Since we have two new person, Salah, could you introduce yourself, please, briefly? If not, then Kadim, please go ahead.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Yes, if you can just introduce yourself briefly, who you are, what you do.
Okay, it's one at a time. Okay, I can because I'm I'm listening. Okay.
All right, no worries. And Salah, whenever you want to jump in, please go ahead. Not able to. Oh yes, okay, Mike. All right, IT guy. You can write it, no worries. So Salah is from the IT field. So I was saying that the text, it's worth reading. I put the reading itself available online. And again, these are a compilation of authoritative sources. And for each text, you have a short introduction by the editors of the anthology to give a context for each text, which is it's really well organized. It's actually a shorter version of the entire anthology, which is written in Turkish. So the entire anthology is few volumes, long, and that's the shorter version. Anyway, I believe last time we stopped with Al-Ghazali. So we can go to the next text, which is about Al-Juwaynī. And in that text, Al-Juwaynī tried to justify prophethood. So he's responding to accusation. The accusation are from other sects, other denominations, sorry. And this accusation goes as follows. They say, okay, why would you need a prophet in the first place? They say, if your religion was teaching things that are self-evident, like, if they were self-evident, then you wouldn't need a prophet to teach you about it. Your own reasoning should lead you to these conclusions and teaching. So why would you need a prophet? And if you need a prophet to teach you things that you didn't know initially, like naturally through reasoning, this means that what the prophet is going to teach you is counterintuitive. It's not logical. And if it teaches you something that is not logical, why would you accept it? You can't, you shouldn't, because it is illogical. So that's the accusation he's responding to. Does it make sense to you, the accusation? All right. And then,
so sorry, Adrian, quick question.
Go ahead.
So who is the person that's making the accusation?
It's not clear. It's not. So the editor said it might be the Brahmins community, but Al-Juwaynī does not mention any names.
Okay, so it's not anyone in particular. It was kind of, it's just a statement that's made in vague. Okay.
So oftentimes these people imagine conversations. So you understand that through these imagined conversations, they are discussing, they are responding to physical person, like real people. They just don't want to mention them by name.
Okay.
So they just make up stories and make up like two person discussing to one another. That's usually how it goes. It seems to be a trend at that period. So, but the editor said that he must probably respond to Brahman community. So where was I? So yeah, then he said to counter these accusations, he said no, the prophet plays the game of a doctor, in the sense that the doctor has specific knowledge that you might not know with as much detail. In the sense, if you go to the doctor, it's because you're sick. You know you're sick. You know you need a cure. So you know your conditions approximately. You know what you're looking for. You're looking for a cure. But the one who can give you the cure is the doctor. He has a different knowledge, more specific knowledge. So he can guide you. So it's like, you know, you want to go to paradise. The prophet comes as a doctor to tell you exactly what to do and how to do it in order to achieve that paradise. That's how he sees it. And he said, yes, maybe by yourself, you could find through reasoning and through experiences the path to paradise by yourself. But if you have to go through like trials and through experiences, you might fail on the way. You might even die out the way. So why bothering if the prophet comes with already an established pathway to achieve that objective? So that's how we respond to it. And I would be interested to hear from you what you think of that argument. So again, the accusation is like, why would you need a prophet? If the prophet teaches you things that are logical, then you should be able to achieve to that same logic by yourself. If the prophet comes and teaches you things you don't know, that are not intuitive, if it's not intuitive, it's counterintuitive, meaning illogical. So by your logic, you shouldn't accept that teaching. And he says, no, they both have the same. So the Juwaynī said, no, they both have the same logic. It's just the prophet is more specific, more precise.
I feel like there are so many assumptions in that argument, like just basically like I was like going to say, just come back to me. Let me formulate my sentences first.
So I mean, that's my
Okay.
summary of the text. Maybe I
Yeah.
didn't summarize it properly. Go ahead, Alia.
Well, as you guys know, I'm very much into animals and nature. So I always look for answers in nature for some of these human assumptions. Faiza, I agree with you that there's definitely a lot of assumptions in it. But for example, like think about human babies. Without parents, you would die. Like, yeah, you can't survive. Human babies cannot survive without at that level of intervention for as many years as we have before we can even begin to reason, right? Like even that ability to reason is not innate in human babies. But I just watched the birth of goat babies this year for the first time. Those babies popped out in 30 minutes. They were standing, drinking milk, walking around, and in like 2 hours they were like running and they can communicate with their moms. And it was just absolutely amazing to watch that, but then also compare it to humans. So in nature, there are some animals also that don't even have any parents that they're born to, like sea turtles, for example, right? The mothers go on the beach, they lay the nest, and 60 days later the babies hatch from the nest and they have to find their way, but their DNA is encoded with everything they need to know to survive early stages, later stages in life, and even understand the reproduction cycle to come back to the same beach that they were born on. So going back to the argument of, well, why do you need a prophet, or why do you need someone to teach you basic skills? Because you see it in nature. Like you see the difference between humans versus other creatures that don't need that leadership or don't need someone to lead them to, like you have to have parents that teach you manners or that teach you basic etiquettes or that teach you the basic things. Like, and at some point we want to think, oh, that's just common knowledge to be respectful. It's just common knowledge to be kind. It's common knowledge to treat people with respect. But those are also skills that are taught in the home, through teachers that you have, through people that you interact with. So in life, it's not just the prophet alone. There are many examples we need to become reasonable people, right? Like it's just not as common sense to everyone because your experiences are shaped by where you're born, who you're born to, how you live, what you're taught at an early age, and then eventually getting to a point to break free from that ideology. And I feel like I see it in the United States today where the younger generation is seeing what the decisions of the older generation are wrong and they disagree with them and they're like, this is not right. Right. So just because something's been happening for a long time doesn't mean it's correct or it's right. So you need someone to come in and show you the right path at certain times of your life. And I think that to me is like the perfect example of the prophet coming at a time where there was a need for a strong leader. There was a need for someone who already had established himself as an honest person, as an ethical person, as a just person, as a hardworking person, and all the qualities that you look for in individuals that are exemplary leaders.
I want to piggyback onto what you said because it ties into what I was thinking. When I was saying assumption, I felt like there was an assumption that the truth should be self-evident and that it almost like it's an ego thing. Like if I just sit there and think hard enough, I should be able to come to the truth without this random person I don't know telling me what to do. And I think something that you touched on is kind of like, well, humans across the world are raised with different beliefs, and like we cannot escape that kind of raising that inputs beliefs into us that inform our opinions of thinking like, well, I should be able to come to this belief myself. I should be able to come to a pure understanding of the truth myself, which just doesn't account for the fact that we have so many biases that we're grown up with that do color our worldview. Like, again, the assumption that the truth should be self-evident to you despite what you've been raised with is just not true in humans. As well, something you touched on, you didn't say it explicitly, but I think you touched on it, was this idea of instinct, like human instinct, in your comparison with animals. Like, there is a big movement of people also wanting to come to their most instinctual qualities as humans. Like, I should touch into, like, I should go, once we were cavemen who berry picked, like, this is who we really are. And all of modern society and laws and legal stuff, and this is just noise. We should just return to monk. Like, this is like a lot of people think this. And I think C.S. Lewis's book, Abolition of Man, I keep coming to that whenever I'm reading this stuff. I highly recommend it because he talks about this thing about men without chests. Like, if we get rid of objective meaning, which he calls the Tao, right? The Tao. Even though he's Christian, he calls it the Tao. He's like, if you try to root yourself in something outside the Tao, which I think people are trying to do by saying, like, the truth should be self-evident. I should just be able to come to it by, feeling in my body, taking shrooms and realizing what it's like for my consciousness to connect with the world. And that should just be truth. I think there's an ego there. I think there's an appeal to instinct there that I think sounds nice, but it's just not true with the way humans are raised. And so, like, a prophet is necessary in sort of a similar way you were talking about. Like, we're not like the same as animals in the sense that we don't appeal to instinct 24/7. Like, we have a different layer, I think.
So, if I may continue on your argument, Faiza, it's like you have that drive and you agree you need someone to guide you in the path. How do you choose who to follow in that case?
Yeah, how do you choose who to follow? When I was reading,
if it's not on instinct or not on like your own bias.
I mean, piggybacking off of what you yourself said, because I started reading your book, like, I fully understand, like, the logic that you are going through with, like, how do I determine that somebody is trustworthy, which is also not absolute. I fully agree with your perspective of why, but ultimately everyone has their own reasons for why they would follow somebody or consider somebody trustworthy, which is why we can never get anybody to agree. Like, just they're trustworthy because their skin color is the same as mine, right? Everyone has a standing. Now, whether that opinion is correct or not is a whole different thing. But I guess that how do you choose is different for everyone.
So which is interesting. I was reading a book from, subhanAllah, I forgot the name. I forgot the title and I forgot the author. He's a Christian author trying to advocate that everyone should believe. I think the title is like, why should you believe? And his argument, I don't agree with the argument, but his argument as a Christian is like, start by following anyone. And after a while, maybe you'll be happy with that person, maybe you won't. And if you're disappointed, you'll jump to another one, and again to another one, until you reach the truth.
Can I add something to that? I found in my life personally, I kind of resonate with, I think it might be a Buddhist saying, but it is when a student is ready, the teacher appears, right? So I feel like it's a two-way kind of understanding, because as a student, it's like, yeah, you go to school and you have to take all these classes, but you're not always interested in every single subject, right? So when you meet someone that discusses a subject of your interest at the time you are interested in it, that conversation with that person is instantaneous, and you want to just hear everything that person has to say because they are beyond where you have been, right? Where you are as a student. They've experienced, they've been educated, and have found answers that you're searching for and looking for. So I feel like it's the same kind of ideology, in my opinion, where if you truly are looking for the truth, you're going to find the people that are going to help you achieve it. But there's also a bias. If you're coming in with an ego, which is, okay, this is my view, and I want to find people that are going to agree with me, you're also going to find that too. But if you truly are a student who's open-ended and you want to understand, not just agree with what my thoughts are, but understand where the other side is coming from or where the other perspectives are coming from, I think, that's when you're truly in search of truth. And I think the people that think that they're gonna go out into nature and drug themselves up and find answers, yeah, that's pretty ludicrous, because in my opinion, all you're doing is you're running away from responsibility. You're running away from self-discipline and self-control to become a better version of yourself. And it's just easier to say, okay, I'm just going to smoke up something and eat whatever's available because I don't have to do anything. And clearly, that's not necessarily the healthiest forever way of living.
Yeah, go ahead, Mohammed.
So my view on this is that the reason we have prophets is just because the job that God sends them to do is Allah wants them to be teachers. He doesn't want them to be judges of what is right and what's wrong, and because Allah could, in a way, send an update every year. It's like a book in the desert or something like that. So they're saying, okay, this is accepted religion, this is not accepted religion, or whatever, and keep updating generation after generation, or send someone a dream and say, from now on, this is the religion. If you take it, you're good. If you don't take it, bye-bye. But this is the role. A judge is something Allah does at the end of the test, at the end of the teaching, and also it's something like the miracles do. Miracles are like a kind of a practical demonstration, and kind of force certain people to see a bit of truth, and it doesn't have any context for someone who kind of misses it. But I think the prophets are teachers, because the prophets, they are there to teach people from zero, or even from different kind of levels of belief, from 0 to 10% to 100%, whatever. And this, because of the nature of the human, because they have this brain and they're very argumentative, and they reason. That's how they create it, to reason. So this process of reasoning takes time, takes dialogue, and takes responding to context, the context of the people, whether they're Arabs or, I don't know, African or something. And that's and it's slow. And that's why they are there for some time, prophets usually. And I don't think they all start with saying, oh, by the way, here's a miracle. Take it or leave it. So I think that's I think Allah wants us to come to this in our own, rather than, oh, now you saw that update I sent, so you're kind of judged. You're damned if you believe, if you don't, and you're saved if you're not. This, I think, why prophets are to enable the test. Otherwise, if Allah sends an update, there's no test. It's like, I don't know, something like this.
Just humans are relational people, right? That's what I took from that. We're social relation.
Yeah, they need to go through the process of their own kind of dealing with the instructions and the advice or the teaching, arrive to a conclusion in their own, rather than someone says to them, look, Allah's left somewhere in the sky or slab or something, a commandment or a decision, and so it becomes, there's no this point that we all know the results now, that this is the right thing, this is the wrong thing. That's my view, just for it to be a test rather than a judgment.
So I mean, I agree that there is a test in prophethood and in the miracles. I agree, but I also see, like through the story of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, that the reason why he believed in the Prophet alayhi salam in the first place, it's because they knew each other for a long time. They were friends from like childhood, so a trust was already established between the two. So when one became prophet, the other one was, of course, it has to be him. That's the best person I know. So for me, the use of reason was to establish that trust and to build on that trust. And once that trust is built through like reason and maybe, I don't know, intuition, biases, maybe, but once that's established, then he can believe in things that are beyond like what he could, like Abu Bakr could perceive. So that's how I see the Prophet. Like the Prophet, yes, like as the Brahmas might accuse, yes, the Prophet comes with things that are not intuitive, that might not be logical to you, but you can only accept them if you have that trust in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, by definition, the message the Prophet will bring sometimes is not logical, because for people who believe in there's a God for marriage, a God for fertility, for them to say, oh, one God for everything, so, oh, that's too much for one God to do. So sometimes, take them from a paradigm shift for them. But I think that I understood my point about that there is a need for prophet, and then also the qualities of the prophet. So the qualities of the prophet, I agree with you. And one of the things about the prophets, the qualities of the prophet, I mean, if we accept that we do need a prophet because it's a slow, iterative process, humans need to go into argument, and because if you give them something like a tablet, and it has the right religion written on it, people will say, is this kind of a comet? What is the explanation for this? Is this by chance? So, they will try to look for a cause. But also, like when it comes to prophet, one of the things you can ask is why prophets are always prophets after a certain time. They are not born as prophets. Like they are 30s, 40s, whatever.
Yeah. I would have to say that's important, is because, as you could read the Quran your entire life, but without real world experience, the understanding and the depth of what the Quran has to say can't, in my opinion, be attained. And therefore, I think the Prophet had to go through a normal life cycle like anybody else to have the experiences, to have that understanding of different types of people, different problems that people have, similar problems that people have. How do you engage with the different dynamics of relationships as well, but also through his work life, his work ethics, being able to be a trader and then get married to someone who is older than him as well, and travel. That's an important part of Islam, is you acquire knowledge through traveling the world as well. So I think the Prophet had to have a level of understanding and experience, and then, like you said, his friend or his closest friends and people that already admired him. So when he brought the message to them, it had to be received either in, oh, yes, I agree with you 100%, or at that time you have people that always envied you, but they couldn't find something to hold against you. And then you have someone in his own family that turns against him. And it's like, okay, you've lost your mind. You're crazy, right? And so in a way, I think, he went through that full experience of human nature and human understanding, and then being able to teach people of all cultures. Because one thing, as I travel the world, it doesn't matter where in the world you're from, human nature and human problems exist, and they're similar. We put different labels on it based on, where physically you're from, what color of your skin, or whatever your physical traits are that differentiate you. But I think at the end of the day, because the Prophet had the opportunity to be around so many different types of people, he was respectful of them as well. And then what Islam did, it helped people see that it's not your differences that should separate you. It actually, your differences should unite you, because it makes you much stronger if you are a team of different skill sets versus everybody is doing the same thing, and then there's all this competition among you. Everyone wants to be the best of that. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought from what you were saying, Adrian, but I hope I was able to clarify and follow up on what you did make a comment.
I would like to follow up, but Faisal, you raised your hand before. So go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, like, I actually feel like we've derailed because all of what we're speaking about here, I feel like is not answering the question of, well, like, why do I even need this trust? Like, why are you saying I should even trust somebody and that will get me to believe in something that is, you know, a little bit out there? If that's required, then I should just be rejecting the beliefs that are out there. Shouldn't the truth be simple and self-evident? Shouldn't it not even need any of this? Right? Like how would you rebut that? Like, oh, well, we
Well,
need this person to believe in so that we can believe in these extra things. And it's like, well, I
I
think you
think
should just reject those extra things.
I know Adrian was going to say something, but just to answer that, I think because it's in our nature to see examples, right? When you're doing a math problem, you're not going to just take that test without practicing. So I think to have a teacher or someone that is a prophet, Muhammad, I think you said it well, like, you know, prophets are supposed to be your teachers. They're supposed to exemplify the best of human nature. But they're also not perfect either. And that's the whole point, is you can't reach that level of attainment because it's a constant, you as a human are a constant work in progress. But at each stage, we need different types of guidance as well. And without that guidance, you're not going to become a holistic person, I think. You know, like I think I don't know, Adrian brought up the doctor, but you might also need someone that is a great chef, right? You know, healthy food. A doctor can diagnose certain parts of it, but the doctor might not know all the chemistry of all the foods and growing vegetables and then making your own meal and making sure you have the right nutrients to be able to get
Yeah.
healthy. It's a different
I will
level of
say, like, I
expertise.
agree. I do think some of what you're saying is a subjective opinion. Like, this is a subjective opinion of what you think is right, like a healthy person should be. But I am in agreement with you. I'm just saying that's what it sounds like to me. But I'm curious what Adrian has to add.
So what I wanted to add is, like, as a scientist, I say this the same way science progresses. Or why should you believe in science? Like, science comes and teaches you about counterintuitive notions. Like, it teaches you about quantum mechanics, about relativity that are not intuitive at all. But you're still ready to accept these theories for a reason. And that's, for me, the same reason why you can accept prophethood. It's like you need that trust in the first place. You need that environment where you can relate to the Prophet, alayhi salam. The same way here in this environment, this materialistic environment, you can relate somehow to the scientists in the scientific community and trust them, trust what they do and what they will bring and the way they explain the world. So I always come back to this idea of trust. You need to somehow to build that trust in the first place. And then you can accept things that are not intuitive, that are apparently illogical. To think that, like, this pen or the table on which the computer sits is mostly empty is not logical in the first place.
Yeah, I would say on that, the response could be like to assume that the truth is something that is not counterintuitive to you currently is a big assumption. What is big capital T true may be counterintuitive to what you believe now. And in order to get there, you have to have somebody, you know, like a prophet, where you can build that trust.
Yes. In a way, it's like science itself is teaching me that truth with a capital T is not what I perceive directly. It's beyond that.
I think that's a good question. Why the truth is not self-evident? I think possibly I take it back to how humans were created. I mean, they were created with limited sensory powers, so they don't see God. They don't see anything. They have to arrive to this by deduction, and that's part of the whole, if you like, test. The fact that they've got a brain, very active brain, and stuff like this. It makes them want to explore and go to space and stuff like this. But they don't have the same sensory ability to detect God like angels. They don't. that's for them, it's not even a question. And I think even devils, I think even the jinn, I think they seem to know about God or see God or something like it. Anyway, because the first one was asked to prostrate. So for them, that question is not there in the first place. They don't need evidence. And also because even in addition to humans don't have a direct sensory experience or detection of God, they have to rely on deduction. That deduction now is influenced by the devil whispering. So there's two things. They are limited, but there is also bad influence. So you could say some people like Ibrahim looked at the sun and the moon and then assumed for the first instance that they are God, and then by deduction he decided that they are not. But some other nations like the Yemenis worshipped some. But they may have done this with a kind of maybe push by maybe the whispering of a devil. So I'm kind of thinking that prophets are needed because humans have a limited sensory power, but also you've got the influence of a third party member, which is devil. I'm sure Allah knew that Satan will be there, and therefore the test will be more difficult than it is. Allah alam. I think that's why I probably need a prophet.
I kind of don't believe in the idea of a devil because I think humans can demonstrate these skills really, really well. And I mean, I'm also not Muslim, but I do believe in a lot of things from the Quran, but I don't agree that there's a devil because I think human nature, people choose and they'll blame the devil for their choices, or if they don't work hard enough, they'll say, well, God didn't want me to have this. In my opinion, having God or a devil is just an excuse to not take responsibility for your own actions in the world.
So I'm just gonna take like one point from what you said, Mohammed, which is like I don't know why angels and devils got into the conversation. I think you could have like the point was there when it was like not just humans, every single creation, I would say, including angels, but I'm not going to include those because I think if we're approaching this from a philosophy scientific perspective, I'm just not going to talk about those things that in a sense cannot be scientifically proven. But from what we know of the materialistic world, everything has a limited perception. There are actually really interesting studies on this topic of perception that I'm forgetting what exactly I read. There was like a paper that like proved something about limited perception and basically opened this idea to the fact that there could be, other dimensions that we can't see, etc. But anyways, this idea that like we're all limited, I only see the visible spectrum. Some bugs might only see UV radiation. Like, we have a limited perception. Angels also, like, I understand maybe the point was going to like, oh, they have proof of God. We're talking about God, but like every creation has a limited perception. And so you have to grapple with the fact that there are things that you cannot see, that you do not understand. I think that's true for every level of creation.
Sorry, just to come back on the point, the reason I mentioned angels and devils is like examples of people who don't need prophets, because that for them is not a question, that there's God and that's not a question. So that's why humans have this, as far as I know, prophets are sent to humans, and I guess miracles, so human specific. So yeah, that's the reason.
Could you see the fact that Allah sends prophets, but still in a context where you can doubt whether that's a true prophet or not? Like, how can I phrase it? Like, if Allah wanted, everyone could have believed and been convinced, and that's it. But He didn't. Instead, He created us subjective, and then He sent prophet, and some people believe, some other didn't. But in that doubt, in that choice of either believing or not, I see two things. One is that the possibility to realize God by ourselves, seemingly by our own choices. And two, I see mercy, a possibility to be forgiven if we are not doing the right thing. It's like if it was clear cut, then whatever mistake we would do, we should suffer the consequences of it. But because there's always a way around to say, maybe I didn't know, I was not convinced, I didn't see that miracle myself, and so on. There's a way out to be forgiven. That's how I see prophets. One is to help us realize by ourselves who Allah is, and I believe that realization is greater than knowing Allah in the first place. It's like the angels don't have the choice. They know God and they obey. They cannot not obey. We believe that the animals are the same. They know God and they cannot disobey. But we have a faculty of developing that realization of who God is. And I believe that's, I hope that's greater than any other species.
It's an interesting thought.
I always find animals are greater than humans. I don't know. I mean, I could be around any animal and I feel so good. Like the presence is so calming. It's so
I mean, I don't think he's saying
pure.
they're greater
It's
than
so
humans.
honest.
He's saying like the connection to God that
Yes.
the animals have to God
Yes.
and humans have to God.
I
Not
think
like
so.
not like
I
humans and
absolutely
God.
think that because they live their nature, like, okay, my horses, I could try to feed them meat all day long. They're never going to eat that meat, right? And then here we are as humans. It's like, oh my God, I'm starving. The only thing available is this pork burger. Okay, just give it to me. Maybe I'll remove the pork and eat the burger, right? Like we'll justify it, but a horse would rather die than eat that burger.
Interesting. No, good.
Sorry, that I'm very confused by what you said, only because it doesn't really touch on like the animal connection to God. Or I guess you're saying like there's like that absolute, and so they must have a deeper connection with God. And I just have nothing to say to that. That's too big of a leap for me to make that assumption.
Okay, so just to clarify, I think the point that I wanted to make is that I think, I've spent a lot of time with a lot of different people, and I have a profound interest in learning and growing and evolving as a person, but I find myself being limited by humans, not only based on our five senses, right? Like you said, Faiza and Mohammed, visible band, and our hearing is also limited, and our vocalization and our senses, all these senses, and smell, everything. We're so we kind of see a very tiny window of the world that we live in. And to me, when I work with different types of animals and I try to understand and learn about those animals, their habitats, it feels to me like I can then get a glimpse into a world that is not tied to all the subjective or the so-called scientific proofs that humans have created to allow us to live in a mirage of our own ideas and beliefs that this is right or this is wrong. And the absolute truth is one thing and one thing only. But why would God create a world or universe with so much depth and breadth? Why would he limit us as well? And then provide prophets, and even for Prophet Muhammad, it's been 1400 years, right? Plus that there's been a prophet, and we're so far from seeing any miracles of a prophet or anybody else that would come as a prophet. You can't even believe it if it's true or not, because in the Quran, it's like the prophet is the last prophet and that's it. Why has the world or the universe been around for billions of years and humans evolved not that long ago, and we've gotten to a point where our ego allows us to believe that we're the greatest creation that ever existed of God because we're the chosen people of God, or the idea of the chosen to me is just always mind-boggling, where I look at all sorts of creatures from the tiniest to the most majestically large in size to see that the creation it's so perfect in its being, and yet it's hard for humans to understand the truth because we're so stuck on our words and so stuck on our arguments and so stuck on philosophies versus just really observing and immersing with the creation of the creator.
So the,
So, Adrian, you want to touch on that?
so I still agree with this idea of being chosen, that men or humans are special in the sense that they have been given the ability to achieve greatness. Whether they do it or not is a different question.
We define greatness, Adrian. Animals aren't defining the only beings that are defining greatness is humans, because what? We build houses and cars and computers and AI. That's what makes us great. Wow.
I think
That's where I agree. We should disagree on what greatness is.
I feel like, Alia, there's like some really like dangerous trains of thought in there or assumptions, and so I'm just gonna try to pick out some of like what I felt, which was the first being this idea of why were humans made limited, and I would first say there is no choice except to be limited. What's the other choice? To be unlimited. So, which is, that is only with God. Everything else is limited. Now, in what ways are limited? Everyone's limited. Every being is limited in different ways. So that question is like, I wouldn't say there's an alternative to being limited. The second is to sort of say that like animals have perfected this sort of society and humans have been the ones who ruined it, because you can see really quote unquote terrible behaviors in animals, like killing their own children, abandoning their children. Like you see a lot of
humans do
yes.
it, and we
So
have
I'm not
reason
saying that
to do
but
it. So
humans,
you can't compare it to animals.
Yeah, you can't compare. So we shouldn't, like, to say that animals or humans, for example, animals are greater, they've achieved this, is very dangerous line of thought. Animals are operating on instinct, and that instinct, they are stuck with it. They cannot behave better than their instincts.
But they behave better than humans, even with their instincts.
I would not say that.
And we have logic and we have rationale.
Say that.
No, animals always respond to humans in a way, or even in their own dynamics. Like, you can't judge from the outside perspective because a lion is chasing a zebra and eats the zebra, right? And
you also can't judge it as good or bad.
Baby. The bird
I would also say, like, your ability to say it's good is, I wouldn't judge it like that.
The bird throws its own baby out because it knows it's not going to survive, right? Why let it suffer longer and let it just be food for somebody else? And then she could focus on the two that she does have, or the one that she has, and raise it well. So it's our limitation of understanding nature that allows us humans to assume that we're so smart and we're so better. It's the ego that allows us to think that. And yet most humans will never take the time to study animals to really understand why they do what they do. Because I think, to me, the greatest answers of the creator are in his creation. And I see his creation, not just animals, but flora and fauna and any type of life that's created in the most magnificent way that I can't have the same level of depth of appreciation when I associate with humans. I mean, that's just me, but that's how I feel.
So, Aliyah, I just want to kind of, I mean, the points, the comparison. the difference between humans and animals is humans are capable of being evil for the sake of being evil. That's definitely for joy, for whatever. Whereas animals, if we call them eating each other, that's function as instinctive. So I think that's the difference. We have to accept that animals do not have the ability to be evil for the sake of evil. And one interesting thing came to me while we were talking about animals, Aliyah, the concept of death. We sometimes think it's unfair, we're killing them and that stuff. I just wonder in their mind, okay, I mean, you don't have to respond to this. It's not a serious thing, but like, do they really see death as big or as bad as we see it humans? Or do you see it as, oh, I ate today, oh, I'm dying tomorrow? It's a physiological thing. So sometimes I think we superimpose on them our concept, fear of death. Maybe they don't see it this way. But I definitely, I think, Aliyah, I would say that humans have this amazing function, the brain, that makes them amazing in many ways. Kindness and wanting to invent things for the sake of inventing things also make them amazingly evil and inventing evil. And I really think that makes them honorable and makes them like worse than devil, to be honest, like in its extremes. And whether we like it or not, that's another point, which a different point is like, what if you don't want, Allah gave them this amazing ability, okay? They're limited in senses, but they have their brain kind of sees through the senses, yeah? Make theories and stuff like this. But that is the point. Now you might say, is it fair from God, Allah, to kind of create a creature that is basically the basic function of that creature is to worship, is to arrive to Allah by deduction. The world does not need us. And of course the reward is amazing. All this heaven for eternity. Stars don't last for eternity, but humans will live in heaven for eternity. So you might say, what if I don't want to partake in this test? And what if I want to be an animal, like a peaceful creature, doesn't have the ability to do great things, but also doesn't have the ability to do bad things? But yeah, that's a good question. Like, is it fair to go in the test and fail it? But I really think that humans are really amazing in the brain. It's really, I know it's. I know that it's, and sometimes people think about human greatness and how the technology they invent. I'm kind of talking
Mohammed,
about.
I'm going to add for how great human mind and technology goes. Where do you think all that inspiration comes from? It comes from nature. Nothing that we've created doesn't already exist in nature some way or another. All of our inventions are stolen from nature, which ultimately goes back to the creator. Yet we don't appreciate the creations. And animals, they absolutely feel loss. They absolutely feel love. They understand death, and it's not just interspecies. There's a cross-species communication as well, and that's one thing that I'm currently working on. But it's not just a communication; it's a level of coexistence that I see in the animal world, where they actually watch out for each other and try to protect each other, and they know who the predators are, and that is not a secret or hidden. But in humans, you think your friends are your friends, and then they're the ones that are stabbing you in the back, and yet you don't know it. So my point is not to say that, all animals are better, because you have to define the word better. What I'm trying to convey here is exactly what we started with, is why do you need a prophet? Because a prophet sees beyond what ordinary people see. A prophet understands a depth of the world that we live in that ordinary people do not. And that's why that a certain person is chosen by the creator to be a prophet and a messenger. And not everyone's going to hear the message and believe it. They're going to argue just like we are. I know most of you think I'm crazy because I'm talking about animals being so great, but there's going to come a point in time in life where you're probably going to sit back and think of this conversation, because I am so passionate about what I believe because I've experienced both the technical advancement of human. I've, been with the academics, the scientists, teachers, homeless people, you name it. I've learned from so many different types of people. And then
Yeah.
I've learned from animals, and I've humbled myself to realize that, wait a second, I know nothing. And yet there's still so much more I can learn from creatures that we
Sure.
don't necessarily think are of any value. Because without pollinators, 80% of our food wouldn't exist. We wouldn't exist without these animals. Without these plants and flora and fauna, the medicine that we have wouldn't exist, right?
Yeah,
And
Aliyah, but I think
it's just
I think you
uh-huh.
miss. I think there's a point here. I didn't definitely intend to kind of give the impression that animals don't have a value or whatever. It's kind of in the scale of judgment, in scale of being accountable. That's basically what I'm talking about. At some point, maybe some of us will say, "I want to be an animal. I wish I'm an animal. I have no choice. I live my life. I could be eaten. I could live, whatever it is, a bird, whatever, and can fly even, but." I don't have that choice between eternity in hell. I don't have that option. I don't want that option. No, I'm not trying to belittle animals. I'm saying just, they don't have the same task, and therefore they are not in the same trouble as us.
I also do feel like there's a bit of a straw man here where, like, Ali, I think a lot of us actually agree with you. Like, for example, I'm not against nature. I think, for example, Islam is a religion that's very connected to nature. So by, like, for example, when I'm hearing like, oh, but like, humans are like this and animals like this, and I've learned from animals, I'm like, I'm not disagreeing with you. Like, to be honest, I don't really understand why it feels like you're fighting here. Like, to me, that's what it sounds like when trust me, we are in mostly agreement with you.
Yeah.
Like Adrian said, when he first started this line of thinking we're just maybe debating on the word greatness. I worry that you're hearing us say the word greatness and saying, oh, you think humans have this ego, you think we're like this. It's like, no, he's specifically talking about like the philosophical idea of having to struggle to connect to God. Is there something, I'm not going to use the word greater, is there something different or more interesting about that than a creature who has a direct relationship to God? Not related to the behavior of the species against each other or they're fighting or anything like that. Like, these are separate issues. Like, I'm just worried that like we're arguing against something that is not in the room. We are in agreement with most of what you're saying.
That's probably true.
If I may divert to a random question that just passed through my mind, Mohammed, you said that one of the difference might be that humans have a consciousness of what death is, and earlier you said that animals do too. And then I'm wondering, do animals like you can see animal grieving over the death of other animals, but is that grief because they fear death or because of the loss of a closed one?
Or it's both.
Okay, I'm not expecting an answer, but I'm just wondering.
Right? Or it's both. I mean, it's hard for me to explain because I feel like I've been more hurt by people than I ever have been hurt at all by humans. And it's not just me personally. I think, you look at the world we live in, and I think it angers me to see the atrocities that are committed by humans, whether it's in the name of religion or protection or whatever psychological warfare is created. I think, to me, it just goes back to, wow, we really have gone away from the message of the Creator. And that's the reason why I go back to nature, because that's where I find the closest connection to Creator, not in the society or the world as
I
is.
think this is a great point, and I want to piggyback off it a little bit by saying, when ultimately we can't get in the minds of animals. So all we can do is when we read their behavior, we can just interpret based on what we see. As much as you feel you genuinely know what's going on in their mind, that is just an interpretation. So for example, something you said, which was like when I brought up like the monkey who is getting bullied or animals who are treating others badly, immediately you said, well, that's just because you don't understand that they're doing something beneficial. You can extend that exact same train of thought towards the humans in your life or other people's lives who hurt other people. For example,
I
hurt
can't. I
people.
can't see
There
any
is
justification for
there is
killing
there is a
kids
a
and
complete
justifying it
logical
in any way.
decision
There's no
from
justification.
yeah. So I'm just saying, like, part of what I'm hearing in the beliefs that you have about animals versus humans is the personal hurt of being hurt by humans, which is having a very loud and active say in determining the philosophy of human thought versus animal thought. And that is 100% a bias that is coloring the distinction between animals and humans.
Oh, 100%. And I like it
100%.
this way. I actually do. And I think that, for me, it's been a really healthy change to distance myself from people
It is
because
not a universal belief.
it's my choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's my choice.
A lot of what we're discussing is like, can this be generalized to be universal?
I think so. And that's why, like, when I had 7 people from the mosque, 3 of which are imam, they came to our house a couple of weeks ago. And one of the imams is going to come back because he's like, can I come volunteer? It's so peaceful here. Like what I feel, what you've created is so different than where we are and what we try to do. And I do want to help them educate the youth, but I'm not going to do it with words. I'm going to do it with actions. I'm like, okay, let's create an Islamic garden. You learn about geometry, you apply the principles of Islam to life. So I think in my view, the best way to demonstrate is exactly what the Prophet did, right? Is through action, through demonstrating whether you are, when we're sitting around and talking versus when you're personally experiencing something and creating something, it's a very, very different way of living. And I think we've, as humans, have just gotten into a discussion basis where it's my perspective or your perspective or a so-called universal perspective, which doesn't actually exist. But I think, the point that I want to make is that individually, you can't impact everyone the same way, but individually, you're going to find people that resonate more with one person versus another person. So going back to the idea of why prophets, not everyone followed Prophet Muhammad. Not everyone followed Isa or Noah or any of the prophets, right? Not every single person believed in their words. And not every single person today, even as Muslims, live the life of being a Muslim 100%. People still pick and choose what they want to define themselves and the life they live. But I think, we need guides that can help us immerse and understand the world from perceptions that we're limited by, but perhaps they've had the ability to experience it in a different way. And now all of a sudden, you have a teacher that could help you see the world from a perspective, not necessarily senses, but a perspective that we have not viewed in the past because of our experiences, because of our background, because of our own education and understanding and personality.
So going back to the point that Adrian was just mentioned, which is about perception of death between animals and humans, I really think there's a difference. And the difference is not of the process itself, the death itself being, the biological death, just because our humans, I mean, animals probably don't think of a life after death, and therefore, they don't have a worry, a concern, whereas we have, even the atheist among us would always wait until they're dead to have that 100% assurance that there's really no life after death. So that's why I think we humans fear death, because we fear the after death rather than the process itself. a lot of the time we are not aware that we're dying. You know, sometimes it's heart attack and within seconds and stuff. But I mean, going back animals and stuff, I mean, I just definitely want to confirm that it will be easier to deal with animals because they are predictable and they are not by nature evil, whereas humans can be by nature evil and unpredictable. So it's always comfortable, reassuring, very predictable to be around animals, even tigers, you know, whatever, predators.
Same with babies. Same with babies.
Yeah, human babies, yes, yeah.
Human babies.
But I think that is the amazing thing about humans. They really have the choice to go extremes, from prophets to devils. You know, I mean, human forms of devils, whatever that is. But yeah, so, but when they still have to make that decision, and they're very dynamic. I mean, you raised a very good point earlier just now, that Adrian said that the prophet has to be trustable, etc. But even those who witnessed the Prophet Muhammad and knew he's trustworthy, blah blah blah, still a good half of them rejected the message nonetheless. So it's really it's intellectual test, and it's not to do with instincts. It's not to do, because we are formatted, if anything, I would say, you know, like animals, to kind of ask the question, what's next? I think that is ingrained in us. You know, we are so curious humans. You know, the causative thing that I'm doing always causality. We are so based on causality that we want to know what's next, what's before and after. And the prophets are meant to teach us, maybe convince us of one way or the other. That's, I think.
You know, why make a creation? I'm back to an earlier point, which is why not just make all creation like animals, who, you know, are understood to know God directly? Why create a creation who is intentionally in the dark about God? You know, not knowing, not having that direct connection or that direct message, such that even prophets who spoke to God, like Prophet Abraham alayhi salam, had to ask God for reassurance, saying like I know you exist, but like just give me more proof to settle my heart. Like,
yeah,
even in the face of direct proof, it was like, my heart needs to be set at ease. And I wonder if, you know, obviously Allah knows best, but like if there is some juiciness there in having to struggle or work towards that meaning, rather than like what the angels would have theoretically, like that they know.
The way I see it, it's like when you enter a competition, like say a race, and first you have to train, you struggle in the training, then you go through the race, it's a pain, and then you succeed, and you get the medal. You can either go through this whole process, or just go to the store across the corner and buy the medal directly. I see like the animals, they have the medal in the first place, like they already have that status. But we have to struggle to go through all these challenges and then hopefully to achieve that medal. To go through the process gives you a sense of achievement, of pleasure that is higher, I believe, than the other.
And on that note, which is like when we talk about, like, for example, a lot of suffering, and we're talking about suffering in this world, like by humans being the way that they are, we suffer almost at a greater level than the animals suffer. We suffer on like an existential level. We suffer in the way that we hurt other people. Like we have a deeper capability to suffer. And if that doesn't create like this gradient where you also have like a deeper capability in the end to like achieve the purpose, which is to know God. Like, I mean, Muslims believe that the world is temporary anyway, so the suffering would be temporary. And it's like that the struggle is all going towards one purpose, which is to know God in this way, through the struggle and through the hurt and through the, you know, the marathon.
No, I mean,
interestingly, the next text, we don't have time to talk about it, but the next text is about suffering in the world. The rationale for that.
Okay,
forthcoming discussion, inshallah.
We'll leave suffering, inshallah, till later date. But I just want to kind of mention the point. I mean, why prophets become prophets late in life, and I really think that is a mercy, because You want people, I mean, you just talked about the joy of discovering the truth, Adrian, versus handed over to you. But to be honest, if someone, born as a, let's say, Muslim, they won't have the understanding and therefore the mercy of someone to be born not a Muslim or believer, sorry. And therefore they would different approach to people. So for someone to being a non-believer and go through that, decisions like and the environments of non-belief and then become a believer, the prophets, then when they talk to people who are not believer, they won't say, no, it's your fault, mate, whatever, it's your fault, you're a bad person. They will say, oh, maybe because your upbringing. Maybe they will take the context, because the prophets lived in a context. I mean, for example, Abraham lived in context, and he saw basically, therefore, the logic of the non-believers, like they're born into it. Whereas I think someone born into something will be dismissive, like a rich person saying to a poor person, go and get a job, kind of thing. That's my view.
Yeah, potentially. I haven't heard from Lareb, Khada, and Sahadat. If you want to jump in, we still have 10 minutes. I'm just spotting them all. But if not,
Yeah.
Sorry guys, I didn't want to make it seem like I was being confrontational or anything. I enjoy debate. I think it gets me excited, it gets me thinking, and I like different perspectives. I respect your opinions, your views. I really appreciate it because it helps me grow as a person and learn different perspectives, because then it gives me a better understanding of the world that we live in. Also, so I just wanted to say thank you very much for sharing your thoughts today.
That was interesting, yeah. Likewise.
I know.
I have to
I get in a lot of trouble, guys.
You're
I've
pushing
always
against
gotten
our
in trouble.
ideas.
Yeah, I
No,
was always the one that would cause a riot in the class.
I agree that sometimes when you're with like-minded, like absolutely like-minded people, you create a zone of resonance, and it's nice sometimes to have someone who pushes back against you too, so that you can reflect again on your principle. So Jazakallah.
Yeah, so I didn't mean to come across as a bully, Faiza.
No, it's not that. It's more
I'm not
like
that bully monkey, but maybe if
I
I
didn't
was,
take it
I
like
would be
that.
the bully monkey.
Honestly, I just took it as like, you're, and I know because I've also been in this position when you're very passionate about something specific and you're so used to being in environments where there is a certain conflict, like this is what you believe and this is what I believe. Even though none of us have voiced those arguments, you might be arguing against those, thinking that we do, even though none of us have said those things. So it's like when I can hear that, it's more like I understand that we are no longer having a discussion, but I just understand like there's something that you need to get out of your system. Only after that, like I think a better discussion can occur. That's why it's more like I understand your point and your perspective, but I didn't think it was like open to discussion.
No, absolutely open to discussion. I'm currently in the Bible Belt of America.
Wow.
And
Ohio.
you guys, like Islam is the most respectful to animals, and that's why I love it. But when you talk to the Bible Belt community, it's a totally different perspective. Right. And I always have to talk about, well, I would rather kill a human than an animal because they're always murdering every moving animal here. And then they just look at me like, oh, what did you just say? Right. Like Jesus said, thou shalt not kill. And I'm like, are you actually even following thou shalt not kill? Like, really? So I'm like, well, I will kill a human that's going to come in and try to kill my animals or try to kill endangered species. I don't have an issue with that.
Pandora box.
Yeah, so I get myself in a lot of trouble.
Pushing back against a lot of your ideas, actually. I'm sure we will agree.
Yeah, I love it. I love my ideas being pushed back. It just, to me, it feels like I'm really getting into people's head then, right? If what I'm saying is actually bothering you, that means it's also making you think, because I'm not trying to be disrespectful about it. I really am not. That's never my intent. But it is like Adrian said, you know, you're so used to hearing something, all of a sudden somebody comes and says something the opposite, you know, and that's kind of what the discussion of today's conversation was. When the prophet came out and said, well, I got this message, all of a sudden you're supposed to believe him. Why should I believe you when I've believed this for so long? Yes, I respect you, I like you, I look up to you, and all of these things, but then you're saying something that contradicts my entire life system and belief, and all of a sudden it's coming from someone on the inside on top of that. So it's really, really shocking. So this was kind of my psychological throw at debate today. That's all I was trying to do.
That's on point. So so if you agree, we can just continue for the next reading groups on that same section of the book. Like we can go one text after the other. Initially, I wanted to go fast, much faster, but I see there's no point to try to go fast because there's so much to discuss and to disagree on.
I mean, would it be worth having like a Google Doc or something where people can put in questions? Like if people go through the text at their own pace during the week, almost like homework, and like however much you go through it, different questions or points of intrigue that we have, we put in a document and we discuss that.
Okay, that's
and
a
if
good
there's
idea.
nothing in the document, then we continue the same format.
All right, that's a really good idea, inshallah. Yep, I'll do.
Yeah,
Is
and
it okay
Adrian,
to meet monthly?
and since I haven't joined for probably over a year, I wasn't really even sure where in the book you guys were. Could that be something that you might be able to do, is like maybe just in that email say, okay, this is the verse or this is the section that we're going to be discussing. And then like Faisal said, maybe that gives people an opportunity to think about it instead of reading the whole entire book at one time. And then, but maybe like a specific question and answer or discussion.
And that's what I'm realizing also. There's no point to put too much text because just too much material at once. So I'll try to be more focused.
Thank you.
In short, yes. Yes. Jazakallah khair. So if it's all right, we'll stop here, and inshallah we'll meet in a month's time. And in the meantime, I'll put the reading again available, and I'll focus on which text we can discuss afterwards. And I'll create the Google Doc where we can put questions that will direct and organize the forthcoming discussion, inshallah.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much.
Wa alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.